Greetings. I thought I would talk a little bit about what I'm reading now, or what I've purchased and where, and so on and so forth. Um, what to begin with? I'll begin with one thing I got from Amazon, which I just finished recently and rather enjoyed. It's called Leah Lucra, the Grey One. It's by Brian O'Sullivan. This is a historical novel set in Ireland in the year 188 AD. And it takes a rather minor character, the foster mother of the famous hero Finn McCool, from Irish folk mythology, and it gives her a backstory. So, in this book, she's actually extremely young. She's a teenager, and she fights for a for a fian, or is it something like that? It's a mercenary band basically because Ireland at this time was a bunch of tribal conglomerations that were often fighting amongst each other. And she doesn't really have a tribe. She is clanless and she has a very rough backstory. And she's kind of had to scrape along as best she can. And she's a really good fighter. And she's always having to protect herself and kind of think quickly and keep on her feet. And um, there's a lot of threat of sexual violence for her to deal with, and it's a pretty gritty book. It's not really completely light reading, but it's a good adventure story, and it's well done. The only thing I didn't really think was that great was there's a lot of typos, and there's a lot of like grammatical like dangling modifiers and stuff that just kind of makes me go like, I wish I could have been their editor or something and helped them out with that. But I think it is published by the author's own press. It's called Irish Imbus Books, and he's very interactive with his readers, and he says if anybody's interested in hearing more about her story, to go ahead and share that they would like that online. Share online that they would like that, and he will oblige by writing more stories. I think there's a second one out, which I might get at some point. And there is also a third one coming, I think, perhaps. But she's actually a character in one of his series. Um, and apparently she was a popular one in that series about the extreme youth of Finn when he was a baby and everything. And because yeah, in the mythology, she was one of his foster mothers. So it's not bad. I enjoyed it. What other things am I doing and reading? Like, when I was at the Friends of the Library sale at my local library, I saw this book and I got it for $1. It is about Anais Nin. She had a crazy, wild sex life, and she didn't mind talking about it either, and exploring all the twists and turns of it, and in very poetic, evocative language. In her diary, she was a really big, famous diarist, right? But this is the biography, and I don't know if Deirdre Bair, the author of this biography, really likes her subject very much, because there's a lot of criticism of her and a lot of like kind of borderline snarky tone. Um, and I'm finding it pretty interesting, but sometimes I lose track of certain characters that were introduced before and who they are and whatever, and I feel like it's not quite as concrete as it could be, but it still keeps me reading, even though sometimes I'm kind of disturbed about all the twists and turns of the erotic life of Anais Nin, which is like what people kind of like from the beginning were drawn to her about, I think, because she spoke, because she was like, well, she wrote erotica, people know her for that, but that was just like a small phase in her literary life. She tried for a long time to publish her work, and it took a long time for her to finally do that. And she was really into psychoanalysis, and she was really into writing very like evocative prose that was very like, I don't know, maybe surreal and like dreamlike, and she was apparently very self-centered too. But I find her intriguing because she seems like such a fashionable, like elegant figure. And there's really something interesting in how she tried to express a woman's point of view and consciousness in regard to like her life and everything. So I'm kind of interested in her. I have an Anais Nin reader. I didn't bring it down, but it's an old book from like, it looks like it's from the 70s or 80s. And maybe I'll poke through that one a bit too. But I got her Unexpurgated Diary too at my local independent bookstore because I was like, I didn't want to pass up buying it and then regret later because I've done that before. It was kind of expensive, but I supported my bookstore, right? And I haven't started it yet, but it looks pretty interesting and it has like pictures and stuff. She was very fashionable. And yeah, she go into minute detail about certain things that she was pretty bold. She tried out a lot of stuff. You could say that. My church is having a Christmas Carol reading group every Thursday. So I got myself a copy of A Christmas Carol. And I've got to read some more of it for next Thursday. And I'm actually impressed by how much I'm enjoying it. Dickens, I didn't used to like him, but he really makes London come alive at this time of year and that time period, I feel like. And it's really something quite, like, it's quite an achievement, I think. So I'm enjoying this okay. I'm not like rushing to pick it up again, but I will eventually. I went to the book rack in Arcadia with my friend. We took the train, and I had a hard time finding anything I wanted there because, frankly, it's got a lot of romance novels, and I'm not really into that. And a lot of mass market paperbacks and stuff, but I did end up finding some stuff that was kind of cool. I found a Rosemary Sutcliffe book, Sword at Sunset. I actually had a copy of this at one point and got rid of it because I started reading it and I wasn't like super a fan of it. But I'm going to give it another go and I'm going to be a little more open-minded. And actually, I'm a big fan of Rosemary Sutcliffe and I think she's kind of cool. I just think she's a cool person because I think she had polio when she was a child and she was pretty much like stuck in a wheelchair, but she imagined herself into like different ancient historical settings and makes these really vivid, well-written, solid books about that. She wrote The Eagle of the Ninth in particular, and one of my favorites of hers is Song for a Dark Queen about Queen Boudica. She also tried her hand at like all sorts of other mythology, like less popular and less well known of her books is The Hound of Ulster, which I didn't think she did a very good job with that type of mythology, but she tried, and Mahu to her for that, because like good for her. Yeah. I have that one up there, but I didn't bring it down again. Hold on. Let me bring those books. So sorry. So this is my the Anais Nin reader I was talking about before. It's pretty old. 1973. Sorry, I'm just smelling it. And then this is The Hound of Ulster by Rosemary Sutcliffe. I plan on looking through it and getting tips on writing my own ancient Irish novel. That was actually what prompted me to get Leah Lucra. And I don't know if I'm Irish enough to make it as Irish as this was, because this was like pretty solid historically seeming. in terms of the well-researched tribal type relationships and clans and family structure and everything. And I don't know if I'm really into that, because what I was really into was like more the mythological side. So I'm going to try to figure out how I'm going to do that. Write my own novel someday, hopefully. But I also found at the book rack this book by Evangeline Walton. Now it says that it is the fourth branch of the Mabinogion. I don't know how to say it. But and it is from the fourth branch, but I guess in order of like the mythology, it's the fourth in this series by her, and from the fourth branch of the Mabinogion. But it is actually the first book in this series that Evangeline Walton wrote. So I'm reading that. I just started it. And so far it's okay. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen. There are some pigs involved. I've also been listening to the Mabinogion on audiobook from Hoopla Digital for free through my Los Angeles Public Library account. I also found this recommended on another BookTube user's channel. Not really recommended, but he was reading it anyway. And he seemed to be enjoying it. So I thought I'd give it a try, and dang, it's pretty graphic. It's not exactly like comfortable reading for me, and it got kind of dark. Like I'd say the first 70 pages or so, I was kind of like, yeah, I can get this. This is rip-roaring along. Things are happening. It's quick. It's fast-paced. It's kind of fun. And then it got darker and darker. I feel like a lot more like references to practices and things that are just like ugly got put in here, and there was a lot of just a lot of shallowness and like dissipated lifestyle going on. I'm not into really rock music. I'm not really into sex, drugs, and rock and roll, to be honest. And that's what this book is like largely about. So I'm trying it. I'm actually, it's pretty easy to read, so I'm getting through it. Kind of curious what's going to happen. I don't know how to say this. Vernon Subutex or Vernon Subutex 1. But working my way through this one. What else am I doing? I showed you Sword at Sunset. This is I didn't mention this is an Arthurian novel. So it's kind of a take on the historical Arthur, I think. So I'll check it out. Give this another try. I think one thing I found depressing in it before was it's kind of a dark tone. Mary Renault recommends it back here. She calls it fascinating and exciting, and I can see that because it is a little bit like her Theseus book. It has this like dark, portentous like narration to it, like first person narration from like a male hero who's like, oh, I've been through so much and whatever. And I've read that kind of thing before, and frankly, it is a little hard to pull off, so we'll see if she pulls it off here. I'll give it another go. I tried it some years ago, and I got rid of my other copies, so I got an exact same edition. How much was it? Did I really pay $2.25 for this? Possibly. I get ripped off. I see some other BookTube people that pay very little, but I've been paying quite a lot. I'm also working my way through this selfhood book. I think I've shown it before. It is difficult, hard work to be doing this stuff. And one sense of pride sometimes gets in the way of thinking that you need to do this stuff. I've gotten further in this book before and stopped. And now I'm trying it again, and it's about a way of taking stock of yourself and healing from mental health blockages and stuff by addressing the issue of your selfhood. So far I've seen him saying how to raise your level of selfhood. You have to take actions in small steps. do things a little bit outside your comfort zone and establish routines. It's a lot of common sense stuff, and sometimes it's hard to hear someone telling you this, but I think it's good, and I'm working my way through it, and I'm going to keep it next to me and keep reading it little by little, bite by bite. I just finished the part that talked about writing in your journal as a way to keep stock of yourself and reflect on yourself and like see what you can improve and things like that. I do recommend this as a self-help book for people who struggle with mental health issues. I think it's got some good tips for how to deal with the underlying problems and mitigate some of the issues in ways that are not necessarily medication. Okay, that's what I'm reading right now. Today is Sunday, December the 8th. It is 10:49 p.m. I should probably go to sleep soon. That little tinkling sound you heard was my alarm telling me it is time to go to bed. That was about 4 minutes ago. Today, I had a good day. I mean, honestly, it wasn't like a super good day, and I fasted in the morning, and I was super hungry by the time I got home, and we were about to eat. And then I kind of picked out on a lot of bread and butter, and that wasn't really good. Church was just okay. I wasn't really fond of the sermon, and I feel like I should try another church. Possibly, but I feel very, very confused about it because there's so much that's good at this church, but there's also so much that I just don't like about the pastor's methodology and his style and his attitude. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of reverence. He seems kind of goofy sometimes, and I'm just not, it doesn't seem like he has that much gravitas, and I'm not sure about it. Today I spent a lot of a quiet time at home. It rained today. Sat by the fire a bit, and my parents and I kind of watched a bit with them this Russian show called Boris Godunov or something. It's like a historical Russian show set in the early or late 16th century, early 17th century Russia. And so that was okay. But I kind of left because I couldn't handle all that. So that's what I did today. And really what I mostly read was this one. And I also have another book I was working on, which was T.W. Rolleston's Celtic Myths and Legends, which I gotta get back into, but I don't have it here. I left it in the living room, and I'll go ahead and talk about it another time, because it's pretty interesting. So, alright, take care.